welcome to another riveting tutorial from Mr. Lyman. So today we're going to look at Luma keying and keyframing. So first of all, I'm going to import a piece of footage. Obviously it is saved in the correct folder on the hard drive, which should be under your name in the relevant year on the external drive. When I import, we can see up here that it's going to copy to library, so we will import this footage. I'm using Jona's group folder, so apologies for that, Jona, but thank you very much. So now I need to find my footage. There we go. Okay, here's our footage. Drag it down onto our timeline. So if I play that, you can see there's a very interesting video of Mr. Lyman doing the robot. Mad skills, crazy shapes. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a bit so that I can see my footage, and first what we want to do is remove that background layer. So the green background was lit using the correct lighting techniques. First I'm going to just cut off the front part, so it's just me standing in front of the screen just before I start to wave. There we go. And then I'm also going to cut off the end because it's unnecessary. So I'll go to there. Okay, now to remove the background, we can go into our effects panel on the right, go into keying, which is already selected in this instance, but it won't always be. Select keyer, you can see a preview there as well, so it does remove the background. I'm going to drag that on top of our clip, and you can see it automatically has removed the background. Now, because the lighting was obviously so good, because I set it up myself, it's automatically removed the background there for me, and it looks okay. If it doesn't work perfectly, you can use this refine key option and also this edges option, as well as some of the other parameters up there. If I select sample color, I can select a sample of the background. You can actually do this as many times as you want, but it's kind of unnecessary to do it millions of times. And you can also select an edge. This just helps refine the edge. So you put that along any given edge of the subject's body, and it will look specifically at this frame, and it will then adjust that for other frames. So we'll try and keep it standard throughout. You can adjust the strength of your green screen. So you see if I reduce that, it's going to start bringing back some of the image. You can also have a look at an invert, and you can see how defined the outline of your green screen is. These parameters here do different things. Fill holes, I can't really show you that well because my green screen is so well lit, but what it would do is help reduce some of those areas that haven't quite taken away properly. Edge distance is to do with when you set your edges, how far away is your edge from your person. This is measured in pixels. And your spill level, you can see if I reduce my spill level, it adds a green outline around my body. That's because we need to have some level of spill, which is to do with the reflection of the green light onto our subject. We can also change colours of our background. We use green here, so it's not a huge issue to just stick with the preset. Another thing, so we've got these edges at the side, you can see there. This is okay when we've got a green screen because we can just crop these out using our crop tool. It does become an issue, however, if we're using a white screen and a similar lighting. Obviously, we're not going to remove the background in this instance, so we need to make sure that the white fills the screen. You might notice that the lighting on this still isn't particularly great, so when I add a background, it's going to probably look a bit artificial. What I'll do is I'll get a background and add that on now, and then we can have a look at that as an example. Okay, now obviously because I'm dancing, I'm going to need to add some really cool disco effects. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to take a background from our generators tab over here. In here there's one called Glimmer, that's the one that I'm going to use, but you could just do the same, follow these same principles with any background image that you take from, you know, wherever, Shutterstock or wherever online. I'm going to cut that to the correct length, and then you can see in my backgrounds that my glimmer is there moving around. I'm just going to increase the number of particles there, the speed at which they move, make it a bit crazy, increase the scale of them. You can even change the hue if you want, change it, so let's have it Let's have like a pinky red, oversaturated. I don't know what lifespan means. I think that's how long they stay on in the shop for or something like that. And then we'll just let it render. Okay, now that it's rendered, we can have a look. So you can see now I'm dancing. Obviously we've got some really weird audio there that I'm going to delete. That's actually people walking past the door, looking in and wondering what on earth I'm doing in there. One good thing about this, you can see that I'm not very central. We can jig that just by using the transform tool and moving me slightly to the left to put me in the center. So you can always move a green screen subject. You can actually also resize them as you wish. So if you wanted to make me really small, just bear in mind I haven't got any legs, so you need to move me to the bottom of the screen. But actually, I'd rather just stay this size for this video. But you can see now that it looks a bit artificial. When you add the background in, you need to try and adjust your colors to match it. So what we're going to do is go into the effects browser again, and we're going to find our color options, which are in here, and color correction. I'm going to drag that on top of the clip, and then up here we will be able to see our color correction option. Select color board, and this is where we can change the color. So we could increase the saturation if we wanted to, obviously make it look like I've been to Barbados and got a nice tan, or we can decrease the exposure if we wanted to make it a little bit darker. Given that I'm at a disco, perhaps making it darker wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But now the saturation is probably too high. Okay, and we can also adjust our colours if we want to. So you can make me green, you can make me blue, you could, change it just ever so slightly to make it slightly more realistic. So now you can see it looks exactly like I'm actually at a disco. Now what we're going to do is take a clip that I downloaded earlier, which obviously is also saved into the correct location, which is my Mr. Lyman folder on the media hard drive. I drag this in and get rid of all the rubbish at the beginning and all the rubbish at the end. This is my mirror ball. I'm going to also get rid of the music that's on there. Let's just crop that to the length that we want. So let's just check that that's spinning at the speed that I want. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to cut that to the right length. I'm going to do some keyframe animation. First of all, I need to get rid of that background and I need to resize it. So again, I'm going to go into keying, select my keyer, drag that onto the top. It's not quite as effective on this as it was on the background that Mr. Lyman lit. If you see, there are a few unusual edges. So we're going to our effects browser, select our refine key, help get rid of some of that. And now you can see it's a bit more crisp, nicer quality. It's going to try and render as well, so we'll just leave that to render. And as if by magic, that has rendered. So now I'm going to take my transform tool, make it the glitter ball an actual reasonable size. And I'm going to make it come down. I want it to end up over here on the left hand side. So now if we watch it, we can see the glitter ball turning, Mr. Lyman does a robot, best move you've ever seen. But what I want to do is I want to make that glitter ball actually appear and drop down from the ceiling. So we're going to do that using the keyframe animation tools on Final Cut. To do that, if we right click on our clip and go to show video animation, you can see there are loads of options in here. One of them is our opacity, so we could create an opacity fade. This is how you avoid using a standard transition. So if you watch the glitter ball, it fades in. But we're not going to do that. We're going to look at transform. Transform means anything to do with movement, rotation, resizing. What it doesn't mean is cropping, and it doesn't mean trimming, and it doesn't mean distorting. Those are separate options on here. So what we want to do is we want to go to the point at which we want our glitter ball to appear on the screen. So I'm going to go just before I start doing the robot, and we add a keyframe. You can do this by pressing Alt and clicking, or by pressing Alt and K, and it will add a keyframe where your playhead currently is. So we want to add the keyframe at the end first. The reason for that is that then, when we go to the beginning, and we move our glitter ball off the screen, oh, I might need to zoom out a tiny bit, move it off the screen, then it's going to automatically add the keyframe over here on the left, and hopefully now when we watch it, it gives you this red line and it shows you the direction at which the movement is going to occur. When we watch it, you should see the glitter ball pop down. So that's keyframe animation. I then want it to disappear again at the end once I've waved. I'm going to extend my glimmer out so Mr. Lyman disappears, but I'm going to have the glitter ball continue. And I'm going to make the glitter ball disappear. After I disappear, I want it to go back up pretty much the same way that it came down. So I press Alt and click, or Alt and K, to keep it in its place, and then I go to you have to go to the frame before the final frame, and then I'm going to move it again. I'm going to have to zoom out, move it out of frame. Okay, so now if we watch it, my glitter ball comes down, I do my funky robot moves, I disappear, glitter ball goes back up. So that's a very simple keyframe animation. All we've done is we've added a frame where we want something to begin, a frame where we want it to end. It will stay there between the two frames, and then another keyframe where we want it to begin, a keyframe where we want it to end. We can also do a similar thing with text. So for example, we will take a basic title, we'll put it on here, cut it to length. Let's change it so that it says Mr. Robot. So it says Mr. Robot. We can change our font to, you know, whatever we want that looks nice. Change it to bold, change our face so that so it's got a different colour, something that stands out, change our size, make it really big. And what I'm going to do with this is, undo that. I'm going to move my text. When you're doing keyframe animation, you want to keep your text relatively central, and you want to use the transform option to move your text. So that can be found here. The reason for that is because otherwise it might just kind of disappear off screen. There are reasons behind that I won't go into, but just bear in mind you want to use transform rather than just moving the text like that. If you do it like that, then you might end up losing it. That's only when you're doing keyframe animation. By all means, move your text however you like if it's not going to be moving. So again, we're going to add a keyframe at the end, so I want my text to, in fact, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to make it move behind me, and then I'm going to make it zoom into the screen, for example. So I'll add a keyframe here. This is when the clip is going to end up behind me. So to do that, I need to actually move my text onto a layer below where I am, so it appears behind me. So that's where it's going to end up, and then I'm going to go to the first frame, add a keyframe on the transform tool, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it to the right. If you hold shift, then it will move in a straight line. Okay, so now we can watch that, and that's going to move in a straight line behind me. Okay, and now when I disappear, I want my text to start zooming forward. So to do that, I'm going to go to the frame at which I disappear. You can use an arrow key to move a single frame. I'm going to add another keyframe. Make sure you select that transform option down here, otherwise it might get confused about where you want the keyframe. So I want it to start there, and then I need to go to the frame before the end, add another keyframe, and this time I'm going to use the transform tool. Again, I might need to zoom out. When you're transforming, quite often you need to familiarise yourself with this viewing option, so you can change your zoom on your view. It doesn't actually change how your video looks or the size of it, it just changes the view. And then I'm going to stretch that out. Actually, I'm going to stretch it out just using the corner, and I'm going to maybe move it ever so slightly down so it stays central. Zoom back in, and now if we watch it again, top quality work there, Mr. Lyman. So what we've done here is we've added two different types of keyframe animation, one on the glitter ball, one on our text, but we've actually done two movements on each. So the first is the glitter ball coming down and then going back up, and the second is the text coming in from the left and then appearing to grow, but actually all we're doing is kind of moving it closer to the screen. So in the background we can see Glimmer, which is a text, which is a video generator. We've removed the background from our Luma, from our green screen, just using our keyer. We didn't use our Luma keyer, and we've got a top quality video of Mr. Lyman dancing, complete with keying and keyframe animation.